Greetings, guys. Welcome now to our brand new episode of Redemption Marathon. I'm your host, MrYazMan300. Joining me once again, for I'm pretty sure it's becoming my unofficial co-host, Joe. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing all right, yes. How's about you?
I'm doing well, man. I think Kai might end up be challenging you right now because he's the only one that I think is accepting to do all those bad movies if anyone else doesn't.
Yeah, I've chosen to step away from a few now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And what's really fun is that, like, I think I told you guys, he would buy, if there's not available digital, he would buy the physical media just to see them. He did it with Judge Dredd, he bought the DVD for it, and Master of the Universe, that one with Dolph Lundgren, he bought the Blu-ray.
That is a purchase that he made, yes.
Yeah. And joining me now for the first time is Graham. How you doing, Graham?
I'm doing very well, Yaz. How about yourself, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing well. You know, actually, I sometimes mistake. Is it Graham or Garth or something? But I remember it's Graham.
Just like the cracker.
Yeah. And you gotta say, this is actually the first time I'm speaking to you because most time we speak on Twitter, and the first time I heard your voice was your review guys for Prey, which you guys did amazing job with Phil and Lady Macbeth. And like you, I gotta say, you do have a beautiful voice.
Thank you. Thank you. I've
Yeah.
spent 40 years cultivating it for what it is.
Yeah. And you do have an amazing one, mostly because for your poster, because if you guys who are not listening, I'm seeing now is that the Halloween one poster behind you?
Yes.
Yes, and below it's the Thing, right?
Correct.
Yeah. And these are all from
We
the
definitely
Vice.
have a Carpenter fan here.
Yeah.
hmm
I think I do have some John Carpenter films on the list.
Oh, his
Because-
later library is full of wonderful, rotten films.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know that one of his last movie he did was he did a film with, what's her name, Johnny Depp's ex, Amber Heard. He did a film with her. She's in, I think, in a mental institute, something like this.
Yeah, that's his
Oh,
very
yeah.
last film.
Yeah, he directed. He could have just left him with
Now he
that.
just kind of plays video games.
Yeah.
A lot
What?
of destiny.
Yeah. The Destiny he plays a lot because I know like he one time I think talked about Horizon, he talked positively about it. And he even said one day if I had my dream part he wants to do Dead Space into a movie he had the chance.
I'd love to see him in a director chair again, see if he
Yeah.
could bring back some old skills.
I mean, at least he had a great, even if this, look at this recent Larson, he's not the guy, at least he had a great an impact with us. Halloween, The Thing, what else? That's a lot of people talking. What else did he do? Oh, it's Escape from New York because I'm trying to remember his movies. They Live. I still haven't seen The Fog. Is it something recommended? Because I know a lot of people didn't talk about it a lot like his other
Yeah.
films.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's definitely
It's fun. It's not as good as some of his others, but it's still fun. Big Trouble in Little China.
This one I keep forgetting. That's I think his most mainstream
Yeah.
film, right? This and the Invisible Man film he did with Chevy Chase.
Memoirs of the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
The special effects actually is good actually with this invisibility.
And it has Sam Neill, who was
Yes.
coincidentally in this film.
Samuel has done lots
Yes.
of genre films. I think mostly in the 90s of in the 80s. I mean, I can't wait to revisit him in the Omen 3.
I was just going to say, yeah, he was in an Omen sequel.
Yeah, it's on the list. I have it because I don't know if Graham, I think I told Joe, but I don't think I told everyone else. Next month, because this month I'm doing like a Halloween event. Like I'm gonna review like movies like from the best slasher films. I have Texas Chainsaw, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, and what was Friday the 13th. Like I have a list of like the lowest reviewed films. Now the reboot and the remakes, I'll not put them on this list for another day. So then I'm gonna have people vote which one do you want us to review, and then next year I'm going to review the sequel to the Exorcist film because it's the anniversary of the first movie, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's 40 years anniversary next year, and there's also we're getting a new sequel for the Exorcist.
Oh, it'll be 50, my friend.
50. Was it 70 or when did it come out?
Oh, yeah.
It's
70.
73, right?
Early 70s, yeah.
Yeah. This is the first horror film to be nominated for Best Picture, right?
Oh, but the only winner being The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh yeah, that I can count as a horror film.
Oh, it's
Neither one-
absolutely a horror film.
Maybe that's why they give it Best Picture. They saw Anthony Hopkins, man. Maybe they thought you were gonna kill him for real life. They didn't give it a Best Picture. It's like we'll give it to him. Who do you think is a more scarier cannibal? Hannibal Lecter or Army Hammer?
Probably Hammer because it's
Because he's really a
possibility. That's yeah.
Yeah. I can't wait to see that Discovery Plus docu-series. I was like, man, but people are suspecting, man, maybe you'll find out that this family committed murder. They even say this sounds like more juicier version of House of Gucci without Jared Leto.
I haven't watched that trailer yet. Have you guys actually watched it for House of Hammer?
Oh yes, I've seen it.
When I heard the title, I thought it was going to be about
A lot
MC
of people
Hammer's.
thought it was about Hammer films.
Oh, I thought you were gonna. Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna say the old Hammer films, but
That was everyone's reaction when they saw the word House of Hammer. Didn't they saw Army Hammer's pictures like, oh, it's about him. Basically, they got I think 2 women who brought in the accusation against Army Hammer, and I think his aunt is coming in to expose all the family secrets. Man, you know how we always talk about, man, because they dramatize like it's very high production, that trailer. People like, at the same time, if they want to see, because they love to hear dirt about the rich people.
Of course.
Man,
That Arm and Hammer legacy. I
they're
feel bad
what?
because I brushed my teeth with it.
Are they what? The baking soda, or is this something else also they do?
I think it's like the baking soda company is their basic claim to fame.
And now apparently Army Hammer he's selling timeshares now in the Cayman Islands. You guys, because his family disarmed after all this stories that came out of it, and his wife divorced him, and he's I think living in Cayman Island. And apparently Robert Downey Jr. is helping him with the rehab. Because he also, if you don't know, he also went to some behind the scenes stuff with his law problems.
I'm always here for a redemption if somebody's done
I mean,
wrong things.
Well, I mean, the Army Hammer, because he has like one of the accusation, I think is sexual assault, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, never mind.
Okay.
I retract my comment.
Yeah. I was about to say I'm not sure how you come back from cannibalism, but you know.
I always want to know if there's validity to it or if it's just a blown
with
up
this
story that
documentary
he does
coming
is
out,
like a
just
weird
imagine
thing.
the reception.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's like the kind of funny best friends. You know, apparently we eat ass, but you know,
I mean, who doesn't?
we don't go that extra step further.
I believe it's called Caligula, something like this.
No, it's the other one.
Whatever. I mean, it's the scene from Game Over, man. If you guys seen, do you know that scene I'm talking about? I have not seen the film, but I remember that scene. I think
Game Over, man.
it's the one with
See, I
the
hear
guys
Game
from.
Over, man. I just think of Hudson and Aliens.
It's actually
Yeah,
the guys from
yeah.
Workaholics. They did a film for
Rest in peace, Bill
Netflix. It's
Paxton.
supposed to be a Die Hard ripoff. He actually grabs a guy, then they pull down an overweight man's pants. He tells him eat his ass. He's like, fine, I'll do it. He does it, and everyone they start cheering him. Even the guy's like, don't stop.
Which brings us back to the whole premise of a ship with a black hole center in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And don't worry. If you guys thought this was a garbage truck on fire, watch last week's episode. That was a real garbage truck on fire. Kai's internet, stopped when he was started talking about Star Trek. Every time I got this, like, this, stop talking about Star Trek. Yeah. So I think we should start talking. We should stop talking about the random stuff. Talking about Army Hammer and black holes, and eating ass. I mean, that's a down discussion for another topic. And by the way, this is, I guess you might, let's see, this is an mature rated podcast. We say lots of stuff. I'm just laughing at just. At least Joe Andy's into. He would have.
I don't know anybody who would have thought that this was for kids, but okay.
I mean, heck, I always talk about it like, at least Andy's into it. He would have done it worse.
I almost turned it off at cannibalism, but when they went on to eating ass, I was just out. My kids can't watch this.
Yeah. Man, I can't wait for YouTube to tell me. It's like, hey, you said this is not for kids, and then this is for kids. I was like, did you hear the part where we talked about eating ass? Because sometimes they do stuff like videos like, or rated for mature, they get time stamps. Okay, this is supposed to be for kids. They tell them. All right,
So-
now.
You can circle this back to certain hellscape schemes from this movie. They may have been edited out too, so it all can be pertinent.
I mean,
Yep, absolutely.
all right. I think we should stop talking about asses and we start talking about black holes now, because that's actually today's actually movie is Event Horizon, but a lot of people might not know it's celebrating its 25th anniversary, if I'm not mistaken, this year. It was, I think, a few weeks ago to celebrate this event, because I've seen interviews with the director who was talking about the making of the film, and it's very interesting about this film is that the behind the scenes stuff, like it makes one like, man, we could have gotten a different film than we have seen today.
Definitely appeared as though it was a very problematic set. A lot of accidents happen. A lot of people accidentally getting set on fire. Injuries to actors. Sounded like it was quite a tumultuous shoot.
I mean, knowing the set, you've seen how pointy everything is on set. I was surprised nobody got injured.
It did look like a very, very dangerous set. Yes.
Yeah. Especially now that time the CG wasn't that big. Now everybody now uses CG because now most of them had to rely on practical effects. Because people
And that's just the thing. There's so much that's practical in this film that looks great.
Yeah.
And then there's 1997 CG.
Yeah. Don't make
It's
me talk
okay
about
to
the water
forgive.
bottle that's floating in the air. It's funny enough, I don't know if you guys noticed, apparently one of the items that was floating was a fictional book about Paul W. Anderson's autobiography. There's not
I
a
did see
real life
that.
book. Because I was reading like an article about it. Yeah, and so of course I said
And
this-
also, a watch that's floating is the same Omega watch that Lightyear and Armstrong wore for their first moonwalk, I believe.
Really? Yeah, that's one I did not know. It's funny enough you mentioned like was it Buzz and who did you say it? The watch,
Neil Armstrong
Yes.
and
because
Buzz
one of
Aldrin?
the actors was in Apollo 13. It's actually Peters. She
Yeah,
that-
played Tom Hanks'
Yes.
wife.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's actually a good film. I think people should go and watch that film.
Mhm.
I
actually
saw-
always sometimes I love when you go back to these 90s movies because you'll see all these actors and actresses where it was kind of like sometimes the middle of their career, beginning of the career, and then they all became these giant actors that are still relevant today and still working, doing giant movies. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, most of them, the big one, most of them now they're doing TVs. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne is now still, I think, he's doing the big movies. I don't know if he's still doing the MCU after Ant-Man, but now he's doing the John Wick films. Has he done anything else besides mostly after Ant-Man and John Wick and managed the DC films? Lawrence Fishburne?
Well, around the time of Man of Steel, he was in Hannibal.
Yeah, I thought he was in
and,
Hannibal. And he used to be married to Gina Torres, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she played his wife on the show too. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's outstanding. Still
I mean, he's cool. No matter
awesome
what
career. Yeah, but this cast is just stacked.
Yeah.
Absolutely
Richard D.
stacked.
Jones, who's actually in Andy's now favorite TV show, The Rookie.
Ah.
Yeah, and also I remember him from the scene from what's it, Soul Plane, where Monique she does forces a cavity checks on him, just because he's a hot dude. I think it's better for other people to see the scene instead of me describing it.
You get a Richardson in this too.
Yeah. Who I'm
God, you've
sometimes
got
I mistake her for what's her name who sadly passed away, and what's her name?
Anne Heche.
Anne Heche.
Yes, yeah, because they look like the same. Sometimes I mistake them. And
Did you guys
there
notice
was,
the suits, the patches from the countries they were all representing, and how they kind of had some crazy foreshadowing?
what was the
I may have
foreshadowing?
missed that.
So on the flight suits, they're obviously an international crew, and for all the European actors, they have a flag to signify a European Union,
Yes.
which is ridiculously cool foreshadowing. And
But
then-
for England,
And
that's
Sam Neill is Australian. They replaced the Union Jack with the Aboriginal flag because that was something that he wanted to do the flag to represent. And then Fishburne and the American actors just have the American flag.
Yeah.
But I thought that was pretty cool how they let them put their own little touches, and that has that weird foreshadowing that the European Union actually happened.
Yeah, mine is conquering Mars and the moon in 2015, which is how it opens.
Right.
I mean, we know we have Space Force, but we already came very late. So
Yeah,
like,
that's always the fun bit of like Predator 2, you know, talking about the far off future
Yeah.
of 1997, and you know, movies like Blade Runner talking about November 2019. Those
what was
lovely
it? Running
visions
Man,
of the
I
far
think
off
came
future.
very close, because what year was the Running Man came out? The year supposed
That
to
would
be
have been
set.
in like early to mid 80s when
Yeah,
that film was out.
When the movie, I think, no, what year was set? 2000. Let me check that, because I know it's the same year Trump won the election. It was like, this is set in the same year. It was 2017. It was like, wow. We could have been a Running Man. Heck, I would rather live in Running Man than a Trump in the USA. That's saying a lot. Alright. So like I said, 2015, it opened. And then was it little? What year was it for? And then it was another year. It said they conquered Mars. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, commercial mining started on Mars
I
in
think
the
it was in the 30s.
2030s.
Yes, and then the 40s they said they launched Event Horizon to travel to Neptune, and then they say that it disappeared in the 40s, and then now it's like in 2047 they received like a distress call from Event Horizon, because the film, like, you know, it opens with what was it? What's his name? Sam Neill's character. I mean, is having a dream what looks inside the Event Horizon. And then he wakes up. He's actually in a space station. And then we don't see, but we do find out that he gets later picked up by the Lois and Clark ship, which is being led by Lawrence Fishburne's character, Captain Miller, which also includes crew like Peters, played by Kathleen Quinlan, Stark. That's how you pronounce her name, right? Stark?
Mhm.
Yeah, because her last name is spelled Starck. Because just want to make sure. Julie Richards, and you got Cooper, who's played by Richard T. Jones, who I'm pretty sure they had. If this movie got made today, he was played by Keegan Michael Key. That's what it feels like. His performance.
Yeah, he provided some much needed comic relief in this film.
What's his character from Alien and Bill I always forget his character. Bill Paxton's character in Aliens.
Hudson?
Oh,
Yes,
Hudson.
Hudson. Yeah, because if he's basically saying he's the Hudson of the group. Then you also got Jack Noseworthy as Justin, and Jason Isaac, who I think is a regular. He worked a lot with Paul W.S. Anderson. He plays DJ, and Sean Pertwee, whom people now know mostly as Alfred in Gotham as Smith. He's the pilot, if not mistaken. Yeah, so we see them, like, you know, we don't see, but they're picking up, they're traveling out to Neptune, but we don't know exactly what their mission is. They invited like Dr. Weir, or Sam Neill's character, just like, okay, can you explain us what's going on? And he tells them, like, we're trying to find, you know, the Event Horizon. He said that that was the discourse call we got from them, and he explains to them, and something which we know Christopher Nolan stole for Interstellar. How the time travel from black hole. What's it called? This thing? Is it interstellar dimension? What's it called?
Oh, like the description with the piece of paper and the pen and all that, you know, he's basically describing a wormhole.
Yeah.
But I love how this particular moment from this film is brought up this year in Thor: Love and Thunder.
Really? Because
They
I have
they
not
specifically referenced this film.
I mean, Samuel is in the film also, Thor: Love and Light.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I know he was in Ragnarok too. Because that scene was also
Doesn't
used in
Interstellar steal directly this scene too?
I mean, Christopher Nolan is known for liking some also bad movies, because he also liked, what's it now? But it's not me saying that this movie is bad. But he also likes the Fast and Furious movies. He always talked about how much he likes the Fast and Furious film. So he's known for liking some. Talking about a franchise that's going off the rails.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They finally made it to space.
The Fine made it. Okay. So what else, man? We always live now is for Dom and there is to go to teleport to Jurassic World and make them the heroes of the next Jurassic World film. Do you imagine Vin Diesel riding a dinosaur?
I mean, I don't want to count it out.
I mean, it's more believable than John Cena being his brother. That's all I'll say.
It's true.
And
And he's got a little taste of it in that Ark game coming out.
Oh, that's
Vin
right.
Diesel
Maybe that's
with
the,
dinosaurs.
Oh, that's
maybe
right.
that's the this can be the prequel to Ark.
Oh, God. It all comes full circle.
It's all Vin Diesel. Yeah. Yeah, so he explains them like the
But-
one home travel with
Yeah.
the pen and paper. And then there's like, okay, now we have to go to this gravitational sleeping hibernation because it will take us time to travel. I think they take them 72 days, if I'm not mistaken.
It's
Is it-
50 some odd. The 70 some odd is how long they're adrift later on in the film.
All right, and before that, I forgot to mention, he plays them the audio before or after they go to the hibernation.
It's after.
It's once they
Because
get
when
to
they
the
first bring him
destination.
aboard, they're like, okay, 10 minutes to the ion drive kicks in. We got to go into the, coolers here. And
So
they
when he
don't
tells
let
them about
him
the-
talk at all.
Because I forgot at the beginning, he explains the whole thing, the wormhole thingy was before or after the hibernation.
Yeah, it's after they wake up.
So my bad, guys. So first they got the hibernation, then he explains to them like the wormhole thing. And also, when he was hibernation, he gets like dreams because we see like Sammy, he always gets the hallucination of his ex-wife. And then,
Yep, this is the first time that we see her without eyes.
yeah, which was other foreshadowing later. And then of course there's where he tells them about the Event Horizon thing and about what he's doing with the traveling the wormhole dimension. And he even said that this is what we got the distress signal. Now, was it DJ or JD? I think it's DJ, right? It's Jason Isaacs' character. He opened like the audio device where it says "Liberate me." It was he said that's Latin for "save me." So this is what they hear, and then they travel like, and then they reach the event horizon, but it gets a little bit shaky in the beginning because of the weather around Neptune. And the ship design actually, I would say actually, this looks very like aliens because I'm not surprised because Paul Anderson is a big alien guy, and we will later go on to do Alien versus Predator, and he talked about, if you remember hearing him always talk about how much he loves aliens. So I won't be surprised some of the alien elements the reason why he designed the ship. And also you guys read
Yeah,
that?
the design of the event horizon is pretty damn cool.
Yeah.
It's very good production design in this film. I feel like the Lewis and Clark is a little generic in comparison, but yeah, the main ship is a lot of fun.
Yeah. And these things,
Miller's
they
floating captain chair is awesome, though.
Oh yeah. I'm always a sucker for that type of thing.
Wee! I thought like he's having fun. He's like stunning, like wee! Yeah. But the way I feel like it was not safe because it was from a handle from above instead of like below. Because I feel like, imagine this one gets broken. Because at least if it's below, it might be way safer. Yeah. So they dug the ship and they enter inside the ship.
Yeah, and did you notice that the airlock is number 13?
And Roman numerals.
Yes,
13.
because of course it is.
What was it? 13?
Unlucky 13.
Oh, that's why Unlucky 13, because I guess I don't have strong knowledge about this stuff. It's not nothing religious, anything, right? Because I know there's lots of religious theme in this film because with hell, etc.
Oh, there's tons. There's crosses everywhere in this
Yeah.
film.
Because-
I'm not sure, but behind the superstition behind 13, it's like why they don't put a 13th floor in hotels and stuff. It's just considered an unlucky number.
Yeah. Yeah, because and the
And then
black
I
cat and the
hear-
crack, you break your mother's back. And was it? Yes, and also we find out about the ship. I was reading about it. It's signed after the Notre Dame, right?
hmm
That's what I've heard. Anything you guys want to say about the ship again before we move on?
The one little trivia I thought was cool was that when they do that initial pan by, They do hide an X-wing fighter from Star Wars in the construct of the underbelly of the ship. So if you're watching it, you can look out for that right before they get to that Dock 13.
George Lucas was like, "Hey, if I did not notice that."
Money.
Yeah.
And now it's Disney money.
Yeah, Disney.
Hey, the Millennium Falcon's in Blade Runner.
And he
It's
had
true.
Harrison Ford. He gave them like, I'm pretty sure Harrison was like, "I don't care, put it." Knowing him. Like, yeah, what was that? Oh yes, because now with Mickey, they just sent a mass after them. Why did you put the X-wing in my room? You know, it'd be funny if Disney buys Paramount just to remove the X-wing from this film. And imagine them owning Star Trek and Star Wars. Maybe we get the crossover that we were waiting.
I
And
don't
guy was
think
like,
anybody needs that.
"No." Yeah. Disney, if you're listening, do it just to piss off Guy. That'll be a good thing. Where it's like, oh yes. So they land actually, inside the ship, and what happens is that Miller tells him like, "Hey, I'm taking Justin and Pierce with me inside the ship." While the doctor waits, they start to go in, but said no, until we make sure everything is safe and we can. And they also before that they also did the bioscan. They didn't notice any living. But they do know some heat signature, but no living humans. They go on inside and they see like everything is very floating around. And the doctor, I think, Pierce, like she goes on to the bridge and she sees like a floating dead body that's been scarred. And then while Justin, he goes on to the that's the engineering room where the black hole is in it.
Yeah, after he has to pass through that hallway that he makes reference to looking like a meat grinder, because it does.
Wasted opportunity of foreshadowing, I think.
Yeah, I do love Peter's on the bridge, though, where she notices the blood on the console and she makes the comment, "Oh, there's blood here." And we get the shot of her walking past a wall, and then there's a lightning flash from Neptune, and you see all this gore caked in all the different little crevices, skulls, and everything else from the previous crew.
Yeah.
That's a fun touch.
They never show you what happened to the bodies. This is supposed to be their bodies?
What's left of them?
Yeah.
That's the question. What happened to the bodies? The only explanation I can think of, maybe the guy who you see him dying, maybe he threw the bodies into the portal, and then maybe he might be subconscious, maybe he killed himself. Of course, now, Justin, now he's in the engineering room, the portal gets activated on its own, and then, did you really have to, if you see something, you have to put your finger in it? I mean, heck, I would never put something in my finger in it. And I just noticed that I said something sexual that I'm not supposed to say. Apologies, like I mean with the beginning with screw it, like so. I mean,
One of the things I thought was super cool that I read was that the original design for the core in that engine room was supposed to actually be just kind of like a contained black hole that would be there continuously. But Clive Baker was actually a consultant in pre-production, and him and Anderson worked together to actually turn it into more like a homage to the Hellraiser puzzle box. And that's why it has
I
the
didn't know
three
that
spinning
Clive
rings
Baker
with
was
the interlocking.
worked on this film. That explains the design, all the hill stuff.
And there's definitely heavy Hellraiser influences throughout much of this movie.
God, yes.
I mean, and now you mentioned Clive Barker, that explains everything. And also, I think part of the reason has to be also budget stuff, because if you guys don't know, this movie has lots of production problems. Like, they had to rush the film because originally, I think it had to release date. This movie came out, was it 1997 this movie that came out?
Yes.
Yes.
Summer of 97.
Yeah. Its original date was, it took over because Titanic, James Cameron was getting delayed a lot with behind the scene problem with Titanic, and he ended up pulling it from the 97 date. And Paramount wanted a movie, so they ended up rushing this film to production. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, Paul didn't have time enough to prepare the film. He ended up shooting the film, and then after shooting the film was apparently was very gory that the shocked like this screen, and even the executives at Paramount ended up like, we have to rate the film. They ended up, I think, from 130 minutes to 96 minutes, if not mistaken. the cut, and then most of the cuts from what I've heard has been mostly gory. The gore stuff has been removed. Mixed
A portion of like the gore stuff
the
from
gore.
like the little shots, and I think just like extended scenes here and there to cut it down to like a shorter movie.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole production, they only gave him 10 months, which supposedly is very short. And then he ended up limiting himself by shooting extra scenes
Yeah.
to squeeze in with a small cast towards the end of production.
Yeah. And apparently, I think
So-
there's an audio commentary for about the movie just got released. And apparently, he's not a fan of the third act, apparently, because of the time restraint. We'll talk about it later, but I want to hear you guys' thought on the third act also.
Mhm.
Yeah, because so Justin sees like the wormhole open. He gets he shoves his hands in and then he gets pulled inside. And then what happens? What's his name? Richard T. Jones' character. It's Cooper. He ends up
Cooper.
going there to save him, but he gets pulled from the portal. But to see him like he's what's it? What's his like he
Catatonic?
Yes, catatonic. Yeah, like you don't know what's going on with him. And then
Yep, and then there's that comment that he makes about the chamber of the core, all the different spikes and everything, and how like frickin' dangerous it is, and it's a good bit of comic relief there. I enjoyed that moment quite a bit.
yeah.
Oh, Cooper.
Yeah. And he even tells him like, hey, I saw it was open. And then Dr. Weir, he tells him, no, it can't be. The portal only activates unless the power generator was on and it was turned off. It's like, and then he's like, then Miller says, look, I trust Cooper what he said. And he sends Cooper and Smith to go fix like the Lois and Clark because part of when the portal was open, it also damaged the Lois and Clark, and they had to evacuate them from the ship because of the to come to the to Event Horizon until they fix the Lois and Clark.
Yeah, given the amount of sparks and just explosions when all of this is happening, I'm really shocked that anything on either ship works at this point.
Yeah.
Because you have all the different consoles exploding on the bridge of the Lewis and Clark. You've got Smith doing his little tuck and roll, and he keeps his cigarette in his mouth the whole damn time.
He wanted to look cool.
But yeah, I guess. But yeah, it's shocking that things are as functional as they are after all of this happens.
Yeah.
We get there. I definitely have some comments on the way that they fix Lewis and Clark with what looks like space duct tape.
I mean, duct tapes. I mean, did you see
Holding the wing
Skyscraper?
together. It's like ready.
Have you seen
There's
Skyscraper?
duct tape on Miller's chair on the bridge of the Lewis and Clark. Yeah.
Is that supposed to be maybe a joke like duct tape saves everything? Because I think this
Maybe.
is a better use of duct tape than Skyscraper with The Rock. He uses
Yeah,
duct
that's
tape
not
to
a good
climb a
film.
building. And I remember Alex, the Superman's life, like he's actually works in construction. This actually he hated the movie because of this. Yeah. So
The Rock movies.
yeah, so Ware and Miller deciding I'm gonna go check see what's going on. They open they go to engineering, they pull the pen, he goes inside and before that we see Peter's she's actually with Justin and in the medical room, and then she hears something. She first thinks DJ, but then she calls me. It's like, no, I'm not in this room. She goes and she's like what looks like a cover, and this someone's is scratching it. She pulls and she sees her son with his leg, what looks like he's been damaged. Then she found DJ comes in. She turns out she's not there. Then that's when we cut to Miller and Weir. He goes inside the ship to fix the motherboards, etc. That scene actually felt very remind me of what I mentioned, a Cube, because did Cube came before or after this film?
Good question.
Let me check.
I'm not 100%.
Because I know-
It's around the same era,
Oh, 97.
for sure. But
It came. It got September. It came out 97. So I think they came out the same year. So I think maybe so it's coincidence. Because what's it? Oh yes, because I know that Cube was made the same people who worked on Orphan Black and Splice. Yeah, what was that? Oh yeah, so he goes and he starts hearing the voice of his ex-wife, and but then later, Miller starts screaming for Wire. Then because the wife, he starts screaming like, "Come help me!" He screams for Miller, but then turns out he sees fire coming from the water, and he sees a dead body coming from the water. And that's when after that they start talking with everyone. This of course they say that this can't be just a news because it looked very real and stuff. People say maybe
Yeah, he makes a comment that he could feel the heat coming off of it. It couldn't have been a vision.
And I find it interesting that even though Weir is having visions as well, he never owns up to seeing anything throughout the most of the course of the movie. He kind of just blames everybody else on having hallucinations and doesn't even share that he's seeing his ex-wife.
The only theory I have, maybe it's because he knew maybe this portal will open to number, but the movies doesn't make it. He doesn't know it goes to hell, right? He doesn't when the portal, because it's like it just dimension, but it doesn't know it will go to hell. The portal, unless maybe he knew and he was lying. Maybe because like the Christian believes, like do the Christian believe that if someone commits suicide, they go to hell?
Yeah,
It's kind of old
in the belief
school
system, it's kind of
Christian
there.
thinking, yeah.
Maybe that's.
But I was curious if there was.
Maybe that's
Please
why,
ask.
because maybe that's why he wants to go to hell to get his wife. Maybe that's why. It's supposed to be something like.
And I was curious if that was like a subplot that they maybe got extracted from the primary movie, where he had some idea of like that might have been a long-term
There's some
goal.
stuff maybe there, because I even noticed some of the editing because I think the wife, she was naked because maybe they had to edit out some of her nude scenes in the film. Because
Yeah, there's a lot in this film that feels like there's just stuff missing through the editing process.
To find it to be short.
Yeah. But he's obviously racked by guilt that she killed herself because he was never there because he was working on this ship. That this project consumed his life. He specifically brings this up later in the film. But
maybe it's something he doesn't want to admit it in real life. Maybe he's still holding on to his.
Yeah, because he only brings it up while he's having that vision later too.
Yeah, because we know Miller. We're gonna talk about it later. He talks about his stuff, and Peter's the one that I'm kind of confused. Is her son dead?
No, but I think he is in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
So there was probably some horrible accident or
maybe
something.
Maybe that's her fault. Maybe
and again, it seems like there's something that was probably a flashback or an additional scene or something that helps to tie those things a little bit together.
Because we understand from Miller, like he explains to him, like we find out that the Burning Man is actually one of his colleagues who he had to let go because they had to save the others. And he was calling for him to save him, but he said, I can't do it. I had to save my friend. And even tells DJ, like, I never told anyone else, respect you right now.
And because they say the ship, it kind of manifests your biggest guilt and fears as like the weapon it uses against you.
Stark comes in, she tells him this, and because I wonder, did Stark also had a hallucination or something in it? Because we know that
you don't see any.
Yeah, because
she had.
Because we spent a lot of time in the ship, and Cooper, they spent most of the time fixing the Lewis and Clark. They're not mostly inside the ship, so we don't know if
Cooper and Smith don't really get a lot of on the Event Horizon time.
So maybe that's why
Smith wants no part of being on the ship.
Yeah, because that's why we. But I think it's.
Yep. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me see what there's to talk. So. They even said like they have I think about 20 hours because for us the carbon dioxide filter were in it, or as everybody would end up dying. Because that's why they're working very much on the hours to make sure everything's working. Let's see what happens next here.
Then I think it's Justin, right?
No, I think it's where I think the part where Miller tells DJ, and then after that is the Justin part. And then DJ tells him I mistranslated. It says it didn't say
Yeah, it's not save us, it's save yourselves.
Yeah, from hell. Liberate totemet ex inferas, something like this. Oh wait, I was wrong. It was actually, what was it? It was Justin first. Yeah,
This
because
scene messed me up
it's
when
very
I was
scary,
young.
and because she wakes up, she
It's
doesn't find
terrifying.
him, and then that's where what was yeah, because that's where because Justin he leaves. Because I apologize because I don't remember some part, I don't remember exactly the audio in translation or when what scene happens people are listening or watching, because this is actually my first time watching the film, so I try to keep this as much as fresh as I can. So what was so Justin goes in like he goes about to the what's it what's the place
The
again?
airlock.
The airlock, and the because you seem like he's been like he's hypnotized. He started talking very weirdly, like I've seen like stuff like he would sense like he went
Yeah,
to
it talks about the dark inside
the
of himself that going to the other place showed him.
yeah, we don't know what he did, Justin, because that's one thing we know, but it hinted like because of all the back maybe he saw something bad he's done, because that's what the ship it shows like the darkest stuff happened, like Miller with his with his crew member, Weir with his ex-wife, and Peter was with her son. We really believe that she might have to do something with him being in a wheelchair. It's actually there's also that we mentioned her legs. It's also gives foreshadowing at the end of the film also. So we see like Justin like. Do you think maybe his airlock was getting started? Maybe has something to do with his maybe darkest and stuff, and with him.
I mean, if he's afraid of space, that would definitely track well.
Maybe he killed someone, maybe in an airlock, something like this. So
Yeah, I love all the little safety protocols and everything with the airlock system. How, there's a countdown and everything. And the fact that you can't open the inner door when the outer door is scheduled to open because of the possibility of venting the entire ship. I also love that tiny little shot of his hand hovering over the button to cancel the countdown and immediately shifting over to the one to actually get it going. Oh, that's so fun. And then the part where all of a sudden the slow opening of everything starts and the alarms start going off, and that's what snaps him out of everything. And he's just, where the hell am I? What is happening? And
also remember before that, Peter she gets chased by an unseen force, and then when these get on the bridge, they lock the door, and then we seem like he's trying to unleash him to stop him, because we don't know what else. What was that supposed to be? Is this supposed to be like a creature or something? That was something.
Yeah, because they're all on the bridge, and it's Justin going into the airlock that actually gets them to leave the bridge, because they weren't going to open the door because of all this banging.
Because they hear the
and
airlock,
Weir gets up out of the he's like, no,
we're all here.
I don't believe there's something here. Let's open this door.
Yeah, they go to Justin. Then we see Mel. It's like, I'll come in from the other side to help you guys save Justin. But however, just like you mentioned, he's here, and then you see him getting decompressed, and he tells him, like, look, crawl over, I'm gonna jump and I'll catch you, because they say that we can't open the door if it's decompressing because it'll destroy the ship. So he gets ejaculated, and you see like his blood and his vein come out from his body. Miller saves him, and they get inside.
Eyes?
The bulging veins in the arm just to start showing like that pressure.
Do you know what this scene reminded me of, Joe?
Sunshine?
No, Life Force.
I love that
is
movie.
when the plane helicopter scene. Remember when she escaped?
Oh, yeah.
That was a cool scene. Have you seen Life Force?
Yeah.
Graham?
Life Force, I have not. Sunshine, I have.
Yeah, you should see. It's actually a good film. Joe and I actually liked it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, Toby Hooper, like
list.
he did it after I think was it what's it the movie Bolt Poltergeist? He did it for Canon. So they take him. I think in one of the status. Did he say which status spot to keep him on? Is it the Event Horizon status? No, to keep him in the Event Horizon.
Yes.
Because
it
later blows up, and then the end of the film. Yeah, because that's one thing I did not confuse with the ending. They tell it. And then he was
because they find him and he's in really rough shape and blah blah blah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's actually there's when what's his name Smith and Cooper, they could contact me and say, hey, we were able to fix the ship. And also, this also is where Miller also gets the hallucination about his crew, and he tells like this I think is where after he saved what's his name, Justin. Apologies, guys. Like I was getting a little bit confused with what happens next, because that's one problem. The pacing of this film is in the editing. Because when we hear about the behind the scenes story, you don't know exactly what happens next exactly. Stark tells Miller to save Justin. Stark tells Miller that I believe maybe the ship is alive and just making the hallucination. Miller hears of his crew member who died, and then he goes on. He tells JD about his story about his friend. Here, DJ I think tells him like I misunderstood it. It was actually save yourself from hell in Latin, which is liberate totemet ex inferis. Oops, yeah. And they're actually...
Yeah, I think this is the part where Smith and Weir get into a fight.
Yes.
And you get, for whatever reason, DJ coming up behind Smith and holding a scalpel to his neck. And doesn't even realize he's doing it.
Mm-mm.
Again, like I said, I feel like there's some stuff with the editing, they remove some stuff because sometimes maybe there's an explanation about his story. It's like...
Yeah, maybe we would have seen like his hallucination that he was having or
also,
something like that.
He also has, I think, a transplant, if not mistaken, because later in the scene where we see him, like it looks like he has this transplant there in his scar on his chest.
I was able to get the backstory on that and what it was going to be.
Okay, when we get to that part, I can tell it. Okay, so that's where Miller sends Smith back to focus on fixing the ship with Cooper, and they leave there. I think is where they get contacted by what's his name, Cooper, Miller, and Smith. Cooper and Smith. They contact Miller and they tell him like, I think it's getting fixed, and we only need 20 minutes to fix some of the ceiling, etc., and then we'll get everything ready. And that's where he tells them, like, okay, guys, so we gotta move out away from the event horizon. I'm going to blow it up. We're going to blow it up. Dr. Will says, no, we can't do this. Like, no, we have to do it. I don't care what you're doing. We're going to blow the ship. He tells them like to start grab all the audio devices, everything, so we can send it to Earth, and we tell them what happened, because he said our mission was to find survivors and strike the ship. But he said there's no survivors and the ship is beyond damage. We have to send them this audio device, because there's also where they also come across the video, everything what happened. To see the torture of people getting mutilated and murdered, and you see like the phrase. Which apparently, I don't know if this true that they said they had actual people who were mutilated for this scene.
Amputees. Amputees and real porn stars were used to make it exceptionally graphic.
Man. And that's just the edited version. Just imagine what the unedited version would have been.
Yeah, a lot of people, I was reading, a lot of people say that they want to see this director's cut extended version. And then I kind of agree with the fact that when you're dealing with something like the subject of what this ship is trying to say, what your mind can turn it into and expand upon it is 10 times worse than what you could actually probably see. And I kind of like
the H.P. Lovecraft philosophy of horror.
Exactly.
Spielberg did it with Jaws, and what was it also? I think Schumacher did it with Lost Boys. Remember when we don't see the shark in Jaws, and Lost Boys, we don't see them flying. He did like an area shot, like you're seeing people's reaction, what happened. Mm-hmm. Because most of the time this thing gets made because they don't have the budget. It's like, how can we save budget? This one I think is because they had the budget.
And if you want to see an orgy of death, just watch Society.
What he said. I don't know why this, but I said. Or if you want to see people having sex, go watch Pornhub.
It's gross.
Yeah. Or go watch European films. There are European films that do this kind of stuff. Yeah. What was it? Or go read Clive Barker.
Society in my brain. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have not seen it, but I will see it later and have this stuck in my image. Alright, so I said they escape like the bridge, and we see like Pierce and Smith, they're removing the carbon filters, and then she hears sound coming, and she sees her son. She starts chasing him, and then she sees her. She goes to him, and she falls. And like I mentioned, for stabbing her son's leg, you see like when she falls, her leg also gets broken, split apart. And here is
Her
actually
whole damn body
Yeah.
gets broken. Let's
Yeah.
be fair.
yeah, it's blown, but you do notice the I noticed. Do you guys notice the legs?
It looked like almost all four of
Yeah.
her limbs just got
Yeah, but I
destroyed.
didn't notice her arm, but
Yeah.
I noticed the legs because I think they heavily focus on the legs. They're trying to make this like
Now,
foreshadowing.
so after she lands, Weir comes running into this chamber, and he shows like some genuine concern about what happened to her, which I found funny because, you know, shortly before this, when he's having his argument with Miller about, you know, whether they're going to leave, whether they're going to stay, and Miller's like, yeah, you better get on the ship or else you're going to find yourself floating home. And then he does that cool little step back into the shadows and says, I am home.
Because
Yeah,
that's the thing is, I don't know about the
He's very
editing.
back and forth.
No, because I think maybe the timeline of the editing the script, maybe they had to change some stuff because Miller later says that Peter's dead. I was like, how did he know that she's dead? He didn't saw her body. He only saw another person's dead body. Because remember, because they didn't
Yeah, I
saw
don't quite
Peter's
recall.
body. Maybe it's because something different. Maybe because I feel like maybe the pacing, like I said, maybe because they had to they re-edited some stuff. I don't think Paul Anderson was involved with the editing what we saw. It was mostly, I think, maybe the studio was.
Yeah. Nobody else does see her dead besides Weir now that I recall.
Yeah,
So it is, although they're all in such a rush just to get off.
Yeah.
I always thought it was funny, and I kind of equate Weir's like change. It's like he goes to bad quicker than Daenerys in
the
season
only
8 of
reason I
Game
can
of
think of
Thrones.
maybe he's fighting his concept. Because that's why. Because maybe I think that's because, you know, like maybe I think they're trying to find their conscience, like they're forcing them to do stuff. But I think he gives up because after he sees his wife, and we see like when she committed to find out that she actually didn't. They're not divorced. She killed herself, and then she tells him join me. Then the way we see is like she's poking his eye, but we see he's actually scratching his eye.
Yep.
Yeah. We see
Yep, that's pretty gross.
Smith and Cooper are preparing like, you know, the Lewis and Clark for shipping, and then Smith notices like, you know, Weir is leaving the ship, and he tells him like he contacts his, you know, Miller. He tells him like Weir was for some reason left the ship, and then when he looks actually at, he notices that the bombs, because part of the thing is that the front of the ship I think is supposed to be like what was it, the life, was it the lifeboat?
Lifeboat.
Yes, lifeboat. They said in case we mentioned that it will split and then with bombs will blow it up. So he knows like two bombs are missing. He tells Smith like leave the Lewis and Clark. There's a bomb. He planted a bomb. Smith said no, I have to find the bomb. He unfortunately he arrives too late. It blows up, kills Smith, and then Cooper from he gets drafted. And of course they had to make him return back. He uses his air. Was it his? He uses his oxygen air to flow to use as a pressure to fall back. And for some reason, the way it shows, you don't see the event horizon. It's like, is he flying to Neptune? He looks like he's flying to
He was
Neptune.
pretty far away
Yeah.
when he was able, but I love how long the scene is of him being thrown out into space and just his commentary about the shitty situation. It's entertaining to say the least.
Yeah.
And just the way that he blasts off like Iron Man style, like
Yeah.
on his way back, like, and of course you got to get the line in.
And by the way, I did not.
I
sense-
love the '90s so much.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
of course. Just imagine this was Samuel Jackson. he was salted more. So they
Probably a
actually.
little inspiration there.
So Miller and Stark and they end up. They go inside to the bridge, and I mean Miller goes in and he sees Stark on the ground because I think because I think they removed something. We don't see like when we're like attacking her. Maybe they. I don't. Because then he sees him like, oh that's right, I forgot. He contacts his DJ and he tells him like if Miller blew up the Lois and Clark, if you see him like kill him, and he turns around, but Weir comes in, he kills him, and then he dissects him. Miller comes in front, he sees him like he's been like dissected and stuff. His gut's been up on the ground, and then he's been hanged. This one I think was another
he's
imagery from
almost like a reverse Blood Eagle.
yeah.
So what they said was originally in the extended scene, the backstory would have been that the scar on his chest was from younger years, when he had a surgery that went wrong
Yes.
and he suffered severe internal infections.
Yeah.
And his fear was supposed to be of being dissected alive, which is why he does. And in the original edit, right before when Miller finds him, he was supposed to look up to insinuate that he's still alive and just completely dissected and looking at himself on the table below him. It's just like, oof.
That sounds like something would fit the tone of the film. They kept it without interfering.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know, because I remember I was just mentioning the deleted scene. I remember the aliens. I saw the deleted scene where Hudson, because when Ripley is walking out, she sees Hudson is being cocooned and he's about to blow up. She hands him a grenade and then she leaves. Because then we don't see what happens to Hudson. He gets dragged down in Aliens.
I seem to remember that was supposed to be Paul Reiser's character.
Yeah, I
that
think
she
it's Paul
gives the
Reiser.
grenade to.
No, because it makes sense. Maybe it was
Kirk.
Hudson because she cared for him a lot. Nobody cared about Paul Reiser's character. Yeah. So he goes. That's where he goes to the base. He finds Stark, and then he sees Weir like with his eyes being stitched. He even tells him the line. I think a lot of people talk about. We're going. You don't need eyes to see things. That's where he activates the portal. Then we see him like, what's his name? Cooper. Is it Cooper? Jesse D. Jones' character. Yeah, because he comes into. He tells me, "I'm alive." Then what's his name? Weird turns out he shoots.
Oh shit!
The
I can't
window.
stop.
That's what I think.
it's so
Weird is
good.
like he shoots
It's
the window,
so
then he
good.
blows the hole, then he gets thrown out from space. But Miller and Stark, they were able to remove. That's I think is this part where I think Paul Dancer said I think the outcome is not a big fan of because of the restoration and the rushing of the film. What did you guys
I
agree
also
with him?
thought that Stark was going to get cut in half by that door.
Oh.
The way that
Yeah.
it's shot, I was just like, oh, this would be a great way to. And it's like, no, man, they keep subverting my expectations with cutting people up with meat grinders and doors.
Maybe they ended up like I mentioned they ended up removing the scene because of the studio. Okay, now what was that? Oh yes, so they leave.
Yeah, this is the part where that tank gets jostled loose, and you get the, very Warner Brothers cartoon style sound effect.
Oh yes.
It's just weird.
I thought it was going to hit Sam, then he gets thrown out, but no, it didn't.
No.
Yeah, because so this I think is where Sam he gets thrown up because of the pressure, and then we see like Miller and what's her name Stark. They're able to leave the room and they have the room sealed. Then they hear like their son. It's like it can't be weird. They say no, it's actually Coop and he's has survived. He tells them now, what should we do now?
Also, how is there any air left on this ship?
That was what I was
It's
gonna
just like
say.
the Sulaco in Aliens.
I even said like remember the big when they heard they even said like they didn't have money. It's like fuck. It sounds like the last part of it might have been something might have been phony. Then it's like things were getting rushed. Didn't have time. It's like just to finish everything quickly as we can. That's when he says. That's when Miller tells him, "Look, we're gonna separate the ship with the life pods. You go. I'm gonna set the timer. You guys go in there and set the life pod." They go on inside to Cooper and start to set the life pod while Miller goes in to set the bombs. I mean, because not time because you use a detonator and a switch instead of a timer. Stark and you see Cooper. Do you see that there's blood starts filling the room? This is it's supposed to be a hallucination, or actual blood of the ship. I think they
I don't
want
know.
to do a shining knot. That's what they were trying to make a shining knot because with the blood of.
Well, that blood doesn't look half as good as the blood in The Shining. So.
I mean, if you understand the
But it's
Cooper,
definitely an
But
homage.
I appreciate the nod.
yeah. Yeah. So and after that, Miller he sees like his partner is coming. It's like, what do like? It's like he starts releasing fire on him. And he has to run. He goes back into the engineering room. Yeah, that means that he can't go back now to the life pod. And then this, I do like this part with his crew member comes in, he kicks him. It's kind of is that dummy. It looks stupid that scene. And then just like he tells him like you're not you're a hallucination. And then you see it's actually Dr. Wu. He's like I told you the ship will bring me back. We're part to get together. And that's when we see him show him the hallucination of his crew member getting tortured and disfigured. Which apparently there might have been a longer start of this. Is one of the deleted scenes where we've seen more bigger graphic version of this scene. But then you mentioned Clive Barker, then that makes it some of the images feels like something from Hellraiser.
Definitely.
Yeah, and of course, like Miller actually he defeats him, and then he grabs the detonator, he blows up the ship to separate them, because it doesn't blow, because it goes right into the black hole. While you see like Stark and Cooper are looking as the ship goes down. Then it cuts to like few days later, I think 72 days later, something like this, where you see it because when they released the lifeboat, Cooper made sure that the beacon is transmitted to come and save them. You see like two like soldiers come in, and this I think we find out that Justin's also survived, because you hear them mention the people's name. They wake up Stark, and then you see like the guy lifts his helmet, and it's actually with Dr. Weir. Then she starts screaming, and then Cooper says, "Hey, look, everything is fine," except then you see him with the other rescue team, they're talking to them, and then you see the door on its own closes by itself. And that's how the movie ends. So I think the ending for me, I read it sounds like
You're the prodigy.
the band, because do you guys think the ship's still alive? It's not part of the life pod now?
Well, I feel like, unfortunately for Miller, it's not like he just gets to die. He does go to hell.
Oh yeah, with the
Yeah.
with Weir.
It's like I'm willing to take. He even says like, "Take me, leave my crew." It's like no, everyone has to come. I think he was willing to sacrifice himself, and we do see
That's
like
a hell of a sacrifice.
yeah, and I think my theory at the end is like it sounds like maybe the ship is still part of the small crew, like the ship, the lifeboat, because that's how also was the Dr. Will wakes up, because remember he wakes up also with a hallucination nightmare after he wakes up from the chamber. I think maybe that's because that's very similar. So we don't know if that was did you really got served, or maybe the ship is still alive. Like maybe he's torturing them again.
I think it's just more of a nightmare, given the trauma of the situation.
Quite a jump scare.
Yeah,
They sometimes do this, like maybe they're trying to create a jump scare. And that was, I think, if I'm mistaken, Event Horizon. And to be fair, I think it's actually an enjoyable film. But I will admit, it's just actually Paul W.S. Anderson's best film since. But if I had to say favorite, I think Mortal Kombat is still my favorite. It's more entertaining than this film. And this film feels like, I feel like it should have never been a studio film, because the way they were trying to go, it feels like they were trying to go something like you mentioned, like the Hellraisers. I think it should have been like a small studio, like indie film, like Hellraiser doing it. Because
but you wouldn't have gotten the production value for the sets, unfortunately. That's the one area where this being a studio film really shines. It's for the most part really gorgeous to look at. It's got some good gore and good scares for us horror fans, for sure. There's clearly studio meddling and just missing stuff. For sure. But it's still a
was actually
ride.
a very lower budget than what they gave. The studio would have interfered with it. Because I think that's why it's because the major studio wanted a tentpole movie for the summer. They didn't want to something with imagery stuff, because I don't know how the end result would have been if they had kept it. Would have been they've made the film better or not. But I do hope, because Paul Davis.
I think its runtime is a strong point.
Yeah.
It's like I love hour and a half
time,
movies.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I am curious to see like the director's cut, because they say that this is not his cut, because we saw Hellraiser 2, Highlander 2, when Joe, I'm pretty sure, wished he was more drunk than he was in that episode.
Oh, I love Highlander 2.
Was not drunk, but I was drinking for sure.
And that version
made
that we saw was not the theatrical version. We said was actually the edited version, and it was better than the theatrical version. So it's not
it makes it better for sure. I can't imagine what kind of a train wreck that original theatrical cut would have been. I'm glad that I've not had to suffer through.
Because we don't know if the studio were willing to because they said you have to find a copy and stuff. I don't know if they still own a copy of the, because last I heard they said they found a VHS with the original cut. But I don't know if it's still usable or not. That's one of the reasons why people think, and And like I mentioned to you, like in 2019, there was an article. Apparently, Amazon is doing like a TV show adaptation. I don't know if it's actually a reboot or a sequel to Event Horizon. They're saying Adam Wingard might end up directing the show.
I'd be excited to see that. I'd like to see it in someone else's hands with like a little bit more fleshed out time to like develop the characters and establish what their fears are, their guilts. Because I feel like some of the characters, like someone like Cooper, he's there for comedic relief, but he doesn't get fleshed out or get his own scares in the ship. And Smith is just there to be the paranoia person.
I feel like DJ they were trying to do, and they were trying to give him more stuff, and even Stars. I was like, okay, why didn't they feel like they didn't use it a lot? It's like, hey, we need a hot white woman, the blonde woman I meant in the film, because we do see her like in her undies, and you know how people like, yeah, put some hot sexy woman in the film.
I did read that part was originally written as a male character.
Stars?
And then when they did the auditions, they did both male and female auditions for it. And when she auditioned, he decided to take her because he was just like, I think it'll be way more exciting if we can cover her in blood than someone else.
Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
However you get to your conclusions.
Yeah.
So I agree, yes.
So I think it's time we give our final thoughts and our review. So, Graham, do you know exactly what we do with our podcast and our scoring?
I do not.
We have redeemable, unredeemable, and low redemption. Low redemption is when you're in the middle of, I don't know if you're actually in the middle of the mix, you're mixed up. I was like, is it good, is it bad? So we give low redemption. So I think, again, since you're the new guest, I can have you start first. Final thoughts and your score.
I think this is an exceptionally fun movie. I think it's dated because it's definitely a 90s movie, but I think the practicality of the set design, the ship design, the excellent stacked cast who all definitely take it seriously, make it a very redeemed theme. And it wasn't great when it originally came out in theaters, but it's found a cult following. And I'd say it's a redeemed, solid 7.5. It's a good, fun movie.
Yeah. How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I will echo it is absolutely redeemable. Certainly one of those films that found a greater audience in later years. God, I probably would have seen this like right before I went to college.
Thank God Andy's in here to make a joke.
The summer of the summer of my senior year of high school. So you had this, you had The Lost World, Jurassic Park, you had Batman and Robin, and then later on that year you had Alien Resurrection and Titanic. It was a year, all right, for movies, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. Again, the practical sets. I would love to see a version of this movie where they said, to hell with CG. Let's just do this all practically, as much as we possibly can. And I think that would have been to its benefit. I mean, the CG is fun that is used, especially like the veins and the the airlock scene and all that. But the cast is phenomenal. You got people that, like you said, Graham, that are on their way up, are in the middle of their careers, or sort of on their way out. And they do take it seriously, almost to a fault. But you got some good scares. It's a fun story. The movie respects your time for sure. Yeah. You are in and out with this thing.
The original cut is reportedly 130 minutes long.
I'm curious. It's getting, if it hasn't already been released, it's supposed to happen very soon. It's getting a 4K Blu-ray release.
For the anniversary.
Yeah,
I think it just came out. Yeah.
I'm curious what kinds of extras come along with that.
I think that
I actually own a digital copy of it, so it's pretty bare bones. But and I'm just curious.
Yeah. And for me, actually,
how about you, Yaz?
So it's actually my first time watching. I heard a lot of people talk about it, and I can see like the inspiration from Dead Space, and since Graham mentioned Clive Barker was involved in this film, I can see like the Hellraiser involvement, and I actually did enjoy it. So I'm giving it a redeemable score, because I also do want to see like, I know he said if there's a strong movement like the Snyder Cut movement minus the bots, maybe they can have the direct cut, like the real cut of the film. But I do hope maybe is that something I'm curious to see, is like like we've seen some of the director's cut that are like better than the original cut because Ridley Scott basically made a living making this stuff. I mean, was it Blade Runner and was it Kingdom of Heaven? The director's cuts are better than the original cut. And
It's like Aliens. The director's cut of that is almost like what, 40 minutes longer?
Yeah, there's a lot of extra material in that film.
yeah, I don't know if I have it or not. The director's cut. I think I do have them.
It looks
Oh,
like
it's
it
worth a
came
watch
out-
if you've never seen it. Yes,
I think I've
definitely
seen the
worth a
version I
watch.
saw is the director's cut for Alien and Aliens, both of them.
Yeah, I don't think the director's cut of Alien is an improvement in any
It's
way.
the one where she
but
sees she finds them in cocoon, right? Ripley.
yeah,
That's the one I
there's
saw.
that. There's another conversation between her and Lambert. Yeah,
Because
there's
I know
just a
in
lot
Aliens,
of little things.
They kept her daughter's. She sees the photo of her daughter. That's in the director's cut, right?
That's Aliens.
Yes, that's. Yeah, because that's I know because they kept it and they removed it. Apparently, Sigourney Weaver wasn't happy when they removed it from theatrical cut. She wanted it back.
Especially that was one of Cameron's whole like subplots of the movie was mother versus mother.
Yeah.
And they kind of robbed Sigourney Weaver of that in the theatrical cut, and they kind of redeem it a
Hey,
little
she
bit
should
with
be
Newt.
happy. She should be happy with that theatrical cut because she got an Oscar nom out of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I think both movies are fantastic.
So
And
like I
the
said-
4K came out on August 9th.
So
Okay, so very recently.
Yeah. So what was that? Okay, so this is actually a film I think you go recommend it. If I had to score it in a 1 out of 10, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Because it's actually a redeemable film. It's an okay film. It is actually what these people say. I think so far of all the movies I've seen by Paul W. S. This is actually his best film. But if I had to say my favorite is still Mortal Kombat. Okay. So I think that's it for this episode. Like the episode wasn't that long because there was not lots of stuff about happening. Like I mentioned, the movie's long. And we talked about mostly about the stuff that happened with the film. And it's good. Get also like doing now. I did a shorter episode mostly because most of the things get out of the rail, or if you've seen like, it's this episode people were leaving and coming, and then I had to do stuff, having internet problems. But so far, I think it's been doing well. And before I think we end the show, I want to forgot to do some housekeeping, the most important one, which I know Joe actually loves to hear. My YouTube channel of 1 million subscribers. I get to review Turkish finest cinema, The Adventures of Acela, which I know Joe is really excited to be part of.
So excited to be a part of that.
So we don't
Graham,
have,
if you've ever seen the trailer for this film, it is an absolute train wreck.
Is it?
yes, because when I showed Joe the trailer, I told him how many subscribers. He said 1 million subscribers. I'll do it. So I got him and Andy now to be part of it. He gave me a free pass for a movie. I decided to use it for this one. So I think Joe won't suffer alone watching a film. Don't worry, the film is free on Tubi in case you're interested.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
Not only do I get to see the film, I get to see it with ads.
I think you can rent it, but I don't think you want paid.
I don't know if you want that on your rental log.
Yeah.
It's really funny when I showed.
I don't want it influencing recommendations of anything for me on the internet.
Hey, out of my algorithm.
Exactly.
Man, I have to find a way to get Mark to be part of it too. 1 million subscribers.
Jesus.
Yeah. And I think this is no. I think we should do another plugging. Graham, where can people find you?
My name is Graham Brooker, and you can find me as G_bomb82 on Twitter. And I don't support cannibalism, but I do support eating ass.
Yeah. This should be like how we end the show. Joe, what about you? Where do people can find you?
You can find me on Twitter at @JMertens. You can also find my show Murders with Mertens on YouTube. Don't have that custom link yet, so you just got to search, but I am now just barely over halfway there to the custom link. So working on it.
Yeah, go
Working on it. I think that's a pretty decent accomplishment in 6 months. So, and I too do not condone cannibalism, but I absolutely do condone eating ass. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so go and support Joe.
Oh, yes. What are we going to throw in the comments to make sure that people made it this far?
say I don't know, booty tooty. How about that?
Okay. We do it.
Yes. All right. No, something booty. Since we're talking about ass, we'll make it ass related.
Why not?
It all comes full circle, gentlemen.
So you can find me at
Yes.
the YazMan300 and Twitch for Twitter for some reason they suspended my old account. I'm using this. Yaz300 Pro on Twitter and Instagram for my podcast information. Linktree, I think you can find this podcast. I mean on YouTube and for the video version, and for audio version it's available on most podcasts. But most you can find the most main ones Spotify and Apple. Thanks guys for watching, and remember, we don't support cannibalism, but we do support eating ass. So bye everyone.